Hey guys, Adventure Brad here. Just got the new Hobby King BushMule in. Wanted to take a few minutes and share my thoughts with it. Overall, I really enjoy the plane. It's a good sized bush plane. It's kind of what I was after for a general purpose. Fly with the guys, screw around with, haul some gear. Um, the cargo drop bay is really a nice addition. I'll show you that down here. I added a net up here to keep stuff from going forward and taped all my wires up in there out of the way. This is not a beginner's plane. This is a bit more of I would definitely say an advanced or expert plane when it comes to flying and setup. Overall, out of the box, the plane comes out pretty sweet. You got to glue on the tail. You don't have to, but they recommend it. Kind of makes it a little bulky. The thing transports surprisingly well. I just removed the wings here and here. The lifting struts off. I already got the little hairpins out. And screws there, and then 2 servo connectors in each wing. I'm going to probably refine that a little bit with the 3D printer. But overall, it's not terrible. Fits in the back of the car fine. Fits in the truck and all that. So I'm not too worried about it there. But in terms of setup of this plane, I have a sweet little cargo bay door here. But up in the top, I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but there's a X8R stuffed way up in there, and my wires and everything. And you can remove it from those 2 screws there and pull the whole wing off. And the way I have it set up, I think I only have my rudder, my elevator, and my cargo door and my lights to plug into my receiver. I'm going to add an external Arduino with the S-Bus breakout so I could run all that with 1 wire on the aircraft and then have everything else just in the center section of the wing. You'll need 4 channels at a bare minimum, throttle, aileron, elevator, and rudder. Flaps, I like to mix my ailerons separately so I could trim them out. So right there's 6 channels, 7 for the cargo bay door and 8 for the reversing ESCs. Reversing ESCs, I'm probably going to ditch for ground use until I go to put this thing on floats. If you just throttle up and reverse, it just flips up. On the note of this floppy nose wheel, this just happened as I taxied in over this rock. No, it's not the perfect flying field, but come on now, the little plastic servo horn just said no more. It just, I don't know. I'm going to have to replace it with a metal one. But independent servo, so what I'm probably going to do is ditch the reversing ESC so I open up an available channel, and I'll switch it to my rudder so I could trim my nose wheel and trim it separately from everything else. In terms of flight, this thing handles pretty docile. It feels like a very large plane. It's not heavy. You kind of grab it, and at first when you hold on to it, it's not, compared to planes of its size, it's not excessively heavy, especially considering you have an extra ESC and motor and prop. The little doodads and the bigger overall fuse takes up some weight. In the wind, it's not terrible. I was flying in some gusts the other day, and it doesn't tend to do too bad. I want to add the vertical stabilizers on the horizontal stabilizer back there that are meant for the floats, but I want to see if that helps its weird kind of yawness it likes to do in the wind. I've also broke my props, if you guys haven't noticed, so I'm on both are the same rotation or whatever, which is more akin to the full scale, but it doesn't. It allows it to roll over more to the one side. You notice it in flight. One thing also is these aren't glued in the best. All four of mine have just kind of popped loose. I have hit a few bushes on landings and stuff, just being an idiot. But it is an overall nicely built plane with the lifting struts in place. You feel like you could just load this thing down and it would haul a whole bunch. It does have, you have to keep the speed up with it. It does want to tip stall. Um, it's you kind of feel it start to break over, and if you don't notice what it is, you get yourself in trouble. The best remedy really is just to throttle it. Um, it the rudder, it maybe being it's high or it's small or something, but you got to give it a lot, and by the time you do it, it kind of does this weird drops the tail squirrely thing. So the best remedy I found is just throttle up. The only real problems I've had with it wanting to do that is on downwind with the flaps down, or just not generally paying attention to my airspeed. That is a problem with FPV. You don't get a ground speed reference or airspeed reference at all, and it's harder to tell the attitude of the plane compared to line of sight flying. That's something that just gained with time and experience, but I really do like the plane. It's a fun plane, and the best part about it, and that's why I was saving it for the last, is the ground taxiing. This thing is a party on the ground. It almost feels like an RC car. You could go up over little berms and rocks, and as long as you don't catch something like in the mains or anything, it just romps all over stuff. The steerable nose wheel, um, it just goes everywhere. The two things I've noticed is I fly tail draggers excessively. I love me a tail dragger. So I'm used to just bearing the stick in my lap, just pulling full elevator when I'm taxiing. Well, you do that with this thing, and it just does this. So that's a bad habit. I've actually learned it doesn't really help much to bury the front nose wheel, but once I get rolling forward, on my taxi, either if I'm just taxiing along or on my takeoff roll, I give it just a pinch down elevator. I just put a little bit of pressure on the stick, and it just helps to plant that front nose wheel just a little bit more, keeps it that much more stable on that takeoff roll, and you're able to pull back. The other things that I've noticed, it likes a full rollout. Um, it's not something that you can just jam the flaps on and yank up. Yeah, you guys do it, the 4 cells and light batteries and stuff, but I'm running 5200 3-cell. It's a battery I run in all my big planes. I have a few of them, so that's what I run. The best I found with this thing is to get it rolling forward. Um, with no flaps, all cleaned up, get it rolling forward, make sure that it's going in the direction you want it to do, because at first little bit, like that one little rock right there, is already causing it to go over. So normally I use the differential thrust coupled to the rudder on the ground. That is like, flip that on as soon as you get on the ground. But so I use that, bam, differential rudder, get straight. As soon as I'm straight in the direction I want to go, I flip my differential rudder off. I give just a little down elevator, and this is, it all happens within seconds because it's RC plane. They're quick. But just a little down elevator, keep that nose wheel planted. If I'm gonna take a lazy takeoff, I kind of roll out a little more throttle, nice and smooth. I want to keep it nice and scale. I'm gonna throttle up when I just pass 3/4 or so throttle. 5/8, 3/4 so, I click on the first level of flaps, which is about, I got it somewhere set up about there from our first level of flaps, maybe just a hair more, something like that. And so then that's a nice scale takeoff. I run it to about 3/4 power, let it come up. Once I got a nice flat attitude, I dump the flaps, clean it up, and proceed with my flight. If I want to come off the ground quick, it's roughly the same procedure. I try to get the plane, this happens way quicker too than a scale rollout, but just get the plane going straight, whatever means necessary, differential thrust, nice runway or whatever. As soon as it's going straight, full throttle, full flaps, and I'm talking full flaps, like those things need to be at a 90, that's what you need. Pull full flaps, and the plane's going to just jump up. Give it some elevator down, about a quarter elevator down, quarter stick elevator. Maintain that climb out. You'll climb 50 feet within a second or two of elevation. Dump the flaps, pull off the elevator. One thing I've noticed a lot of times is people don't slow their flaps down. I don't know how to do it with Spectrum, but with Tyrannus you could do flap slowing up and down. I like 2 seconds up and down. It gives you nice time to react with your elevator because I don't mix elevator into my flaps. And it smooths out any ballooning or anything like that. It gives an overall nicer flight. But like I said, this thing is a party on the ground. I off-roaded all over. I'll certainly post some videos of screwing around with this thing off-road. Yeah, I really enjoy it. I recommend the plane if you're looking for something that more of a screw around, you know, the cargo bay, fly formation. I'll probably put a head tracker on this eventually. It's got plenty of lift. You could add cameras all over it, way out on the wingtips, everything else. Overall, the scale accessories are fairly, or the scale touches are fairly nice. They got the colors right, or the windows look nice. I'm not a fan of the big BushMule stickers on the side, but it looks like an Islander, or, you know, redo the tail and it would definitely look a Skyvan to me. I like the de-icing boots on the leading edge. It's kind of a nice touch. The fairings on the mains, these bush wheels, like I said, it taxis over this rough ground great. Through grass, tall grass, this thing's great. The landing lights, I drug a wingtip and apparently I lost the rest of my light. These are kind of fragile. Could have got away with a little softer, more pliable plastic, but landing lights are neat. It's cool for flying in the dusk, and everyone points that out and oohs and ahs it. The cargo bay in the back, it's a nice touch. I already got a whole pack of parachute guys and dropping candy for the kids at the park and all that. That's fun. This is really nice just to be able to access your gear, magnet shut. I don't know, I'm thinking about having some fun with this thing and using it to deploy, you know, parachute guys or something else. But I think you guys will see some wicked videos in the future of me having some stupid fun with this thing. I would like to see you go out and get one. I think you'll have some stupid fun with it. It's a great flyer. Again, just because of the complicated mixes that are required, um, and the kind of the advanced flyer, it's a high wing bush plane, but it's still not a beginner's plane. But that said, it's a party. You know, your second or third plane, this thing is just so much fun. Final note, because of the throttle mixes of the differential thrust, make sure that you use some sort of throttle cutoff, throttle hold, throttle kill, something, and double check it with your props off and everything, that there's no way that if you move the ailerons, if you have an aileron mix, or the rudder, because that's typically what you use is a rudder for the differential thrust, make sure there's no possible way these props could spin with that switch deactivated, because if you just set up a throttle mix, you can move your rudder around and you'll have a prop spin up. That's dangerous. You don't need to get blood all over an airplane. It kind of makes a mess of them. Hope you guys grab one. I hope you get out and do some flying. Hope you have pretty days like this to do it in.